Welcome to the Showboys podcast. This is the House of the Dragon Companion series, and you can see Chad playing with his Game of Thrones Funko Pops. Got to make sure the Night King is well seated atop
a little
his
disheveled at some
throne.
point.
What's that?
I said they got a little disheveled at some point. I didn't realize it.
Yeah, epic sword fights in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're here to break down and recap episode 5, titled "We Light the Way." Right, a little high tower reference there, I would say. Obviously, we're your hosts, Pixel Nick and Chadwick the Third. Chad, how's your evening?
It's going great, man. Going great. How's yours?
Good. Happy Monday. Weekend flew by.
Always does, yeah.
I actually we're up on the lake, so saw some lighthouses. Out there in like Marblehead, and we went to Kelly's Island. So
nice.
We were on a ferry, but it felt just like a Targaryen ship going through a through the bay. Yeah, not as dramatic, but
not as dramatic, right? Yeah, it was real. That's why it wasn't the 3D soundstage. You were actually on a boat. Yeah,
actually on a boat. So shout out Dad Cap for the epic intro. We'll play it again on the outro. He well crafted that. That's like the second version, I think. It's been updated over time. I'm really liking where it's at. Showboysmedia.com, and subscribe on YouTube and everywhere else you find podcasts. Check it out. But tonight, episode 5, we're halfway through season 1. We will have a season 2, but as I went with the art this episode, this for the first time on a companion series, I have split the image between 2 images because I only felt it appropriate, and I could not get a good shot of like everything I wanted because everything's very split, because our 2 pivotal characters here are not really sharing the same screen ever in this episode.
True.
What'd you think of it overall?
Yeah, I thought it was great, man. Through and through. A slower episode, not a lot of action till the end there. But we get a lot of really good stuff in this episode, I thought. And I always enjoy any kind of Game of Thrones wedding, because there's always something's always going to happen at these things. It's just like the thing to do in this world. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing how extravagant yet not so extravagant it was for the time. Like if you compare it to the Purple Wedding, it's not nearly as big as the Purple Wedding, right? But I think the plan was to have like a week-long festivity for the wedding. And that
9 days, if I count right, because it was 7-day tourney with the first night there of them eating, and then there would be the actual wedding day. So at least 9 days. Viserys was kind of outlining there.
Yeah. So yeah, I really dug it. I liked that it was in the throne room. I thought that was a cool touch. I like a lot of the stuff that happens throughout the episode. I think we're getting characters, especially Alicent, finally falling into her character arc, which she's probably going to carry through the rest of the season, I would imagine. Maybe the rest of the series, honestly. And then we get a lot of really good Christian Cole stuff as well in this episode. Yeah. So it would kind of answer the question that I had asked last week, which was like, is he going to be Team Rhaenyra, but protecting Alicent, which I thought would have been really interesting, but doesn't seem like that's where we're going to be heading. But yeah, overall, I thought it was great. What about you?
I definitely was enjoying like all of the moments, right? It was a lot of building through dialogue and like moments, both setting up new characters and arcs and important things, but also kind of furthering old ones. So it definitely was sluggish through points. Definitely when you get past the halfway mark and you're like, all right, like it does become a little bit of a slog. But it all builds up to the wedding there, and it really like the tension was building, and I thought that whole scene was very well done, and ultimately it all pays off at the end. And we always talk about it. there was episodes of Game of Thrones that are largely just kind of dialogue
Oh, yeah,
scenes,
for sure.
and then there's just like the end that ties some stuff together and moves it on to the next episode. So this is kind of remind me of like one of those episodes. So got to have
Yeah,
them. There's a lot, definitely more and more keeps going on, and we keep getting these hints at like the widening picture
right.
that we're
Yeah,
going to be
definitely.
getting.
Yeah, I think that it feels weird because, like, in my head going into this, it feels almost like a season finale because this is technically these 2 actresses' season finale, right? We're gonna be switching after this, I would imagine. I don't know for sure. If I had to guess 100%, I would guess that we're gonna switch, but I could be wrong. I didn't watch the after
Nope.
the trailer for the next episode, so I'm sure it's in there. But yeah, I think the halfway point now that this is laid out, Allison, everything that happened here, it seems like the right moment for them to switch. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed this episode, even though it was slower, definitely throughout really all of it, even towards the end is when the action
Hmm.
picks up a little bit. But yeah, I just liked everything that we got here. We got really good dialogue. We got really good shots of Driftmark finally. I love that place, man. I think it's awesome. I can't remember the name of the castle. I think it's High Tide maybe is the name of the
Mm.
castle. But yeah, just a cool design on the inside of that castle, and we saw a little
Yeah,
bit of it in I think episode 2 maybe?
very little,
Ye
very
yeah,
little.
very, very little at the end there. So it's cool to see more of it. It's cool to see the way that the designs are on the inside. We've never seen that castle before, so I really have enjoyed seeing the ones that we haven't seen yet, and I think they've done a really good job with them so far.
Yeah, and I think that it's kind of like a defensive feature of how, like, to enter the throne room, you had to go through that like semicircle hallway
Yeah.
that has that big mural
Mhm.
painted on the side of it, and you get some trophies, I think, along the way. But I did like that throne room because it was kind of homey, right? Because they have
Yeah.
like the big fireplace. He has his
Mhm.
throne, but there's also like kind of a area for food. It's just much more like homey functional than the Iron throne room.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
That
Definitely.
place is just like kind of like the Great Hall, really. And
Yeah,
like this was
and
kind of
this
like
feels like a living room.
a
Yeah.
really big fancy living room.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah,
Um
it's cool. I really like the mural, it was really cool as well. All the helmets with the skulls I thought was really cool. I think the name of the ha did they say the name of the hall? Like House of the Nine or something? Something to do with 9
I I
in the
think
episode?
if it's 9, I think that has to do with the like his voyages. Was it 7 or 9? But like he's made so many voyages to
Yeah,
different
correla
ends of the
yeah.
earth, and he has different trophies for each of those that really built him up, I think.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed he does have the crab what looked like the crab feeder's
Yeah.
mask there hanging up, so, again, I hope we get more Corliss throughout because we haven't really got too much of him in this
Mhm.
first half of the season just because he kinda bolted early on. So, I think we're going to get a lot more of him, and I hope we do because I really, really like his character a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely, he puts on display everything that he has personally done to advance
Yeah.
himself and his family, and that's kind of really you know, uh the king walked in, you're walking into his little realm.
Yeah.
Um barely
Yeah.
hobbling along. Um yeah, and as kind of like the opening scene, right? Cuz we can't forget about Damon.
Right.
We meet
Yeah.
Damon's wife. She's on a hunting trip, and she's quite the hard ass
Yeah,
herself.
she gives me major Lyanna Stark vibes. Like, that's the
Yeah.
same kinda character, like the tomboyish,
Mhm.
hard-ass character.
Yeah.
But I thought
Yeah.
it was really cool that they introduce her and then kill her in the same in the same scene. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We've heard so much about her. Well, not so much. We've heard snippets here and there throughout the season of his wife back in the Riverlands. Is that where they're at, I think?
No, the Erie.
The Erie, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, the Erie. So it was cool to see it, and, yeah, that scene was really, really cool. Do you think that he went there to kill her, or it was
Yes.
just a "it happened in the moment" type of thing?
No, I think that's the purpose for his, like, overly hooded character,
Yeah.
kind of catching her isolated, and like he doesn't say any words once again, and he kind of like slowly creeps upon her, and then she's like, "Oh, we gonna do kill,
Yeah.
Aegon, like kill the child," and then she like it clicks in her brain. She's like, "No, I think you're gonna kill me," and she
Right.
reaches for a bow, and
Yeah.
then that's when he startles the horse, makes her fall. Like he completely intended to do all that, and to secure some sort of assets, being
Yeah.
being the Eyrie, and a runestone would be the castle she inherits.
Runestone. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that scene. I love any scene that Damon's in. I think what's the actor's name?
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith is doing a fantastic job. Now, like we said before, I don't know how the character is in the books. We haven't read the books, but from the way he's doing it, I love it on the show. And he's got a very creepy, and I don't know, I just love his character, man,
Yeah,
especially last week where he's just a total shit show. You know what I mean? He's just a total shit, like when he's laying on the floor in the throne room and he's just
yeah.
hungover, like he's just such a cool character, man.
You
And
never know. You never know what he's really thinking or doing.
right.
Like that scene, like you really don't like what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
He's gonna propose something to her, or finally, you know, engage with her, and
Yeah,
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 he's
come
just
home.
there to kill her.
Right.
Um, and the showrunners, they talked about that, and in the after credits bit, and they pointed out, and I think this is something to keep in mind, is they don't overly describe these characters. All that was really said in the book was that she fell from her horse and died. Really, so as they interpret that as like, oh yeah, Damon killed her.
Yeah,
Because or all George really gave was this like, yeah, this excellent huntsman and horse rider just fell from her horse and died.
and died,
Um,
right. So they spiraled that out. That's cool, definitely. And I like that because you're gonna need a lot of that through this because like we said before, the book is a history book. It's not a
yep.
there's no dialogue or anything like it. So it's cool that they're picking these I mean, that's like probably a sentence in the book,
Yeah,
right?
that's what they were saying. Like it's just a brief like, yep, she died.
Yeah, and they turned it
FYI.
into a whole scene and it explained it, which is really cool, and they're gonna need to do that if they wanna carry this 3, 4 seasons, you know what I mean? Because there's probably not that much of content to get out of it if you don't do that kinda stuff with the smaller details, right?
Yeah. And the thing about Damon that's also cool is like he does something dramatic. And you're not really sure why he's doing it. Like it's kind of, at first it's like, wow, he just killed his wife.
Yeah,
I don't know what he's gonna do with that yet, but then it kind of makes sense because he's kind of carving out his position, right? He needs some lands.
yep,
He was just squatting in Dragonstone, so he's trying to secure himself some sort of like physical location, to
right.
his claim. So he's advancing his own agenda. Meanwhile, he's mingling in the agendas of everybody else.
Yeah,
He's the wild card
yeah.
always.
And I think yeah, he's definitely the wild card, and for my money, him and Otto, I think they own every scene they've been in so far,
Hmm.
especially when he walks in at the end at the wedding, like, it's
Oh
just
yeah,
such a good scene.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get a hell of a lot of more of him throughout this entire series, and I'm very excited for it because what we have so far is great.
Yeah, and it would make sense too for where they kind of left him in this. A lot of things point to that we're just gonna get the like 10-year jump now, and we're
Yeah,
gonna.
that's what
I
I
could
think.
see them maybe like 15% chance they like meander in this period, but it's just like risky. They would have to be very very strategic with how they kind of like foil this current time, right? But at the end, spoiler, the king at least collapses, and we presume he's very close to death. So we're either gonna get like the whole kind of like quick prologue that like, hey, king's dead, and it's just like assumed, or maybe there is some room to have like a an episode where he is dying and dies.
Yeah, I think yeah,
At
yeah,
this point, if they just jump forward now, he's dying off screen, which doesn't feel right to me.
I don't know. I kind of feel like he might. survive to the time jump for maybe an episode
Okay.
at the
Right.
very most, because like we said before, like, it's just too early for him to die, and then everything pops off 10 years later, like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, unless there's something that we're missing, like, I think he has to survive into this 10-year time jump, which is
Yeah.
interesting because really the dude's on his freaking deathbed practically this whole episode. So,
Dude's on his deathbed, and he also can't, like, get anything to go right for him. Like, he
right.
just tries to have a good, grand peacetime party, and
Yeah.
everyone's shitting on his parade
Every
all the
time,
time,
man. Yeah,
every time, and
every
you just see it in his face. Like, he is just so exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame the dude because literally every plan this guy has ever had has gone against him in some capacity,
It
right?
goes, like 60% right, but there's a real annoying, like, 40%. Like,
It's yeah,
he's just enough right to where, like, he's still king, he's still in charge, but, like, everyone's just pushing him, like, just to the literal, like, enough
yep,
to not overstep him, right?
yeah,
But enough to, like, really, really get under his skin.
right, but,
Um,
like, if you look at, like, the tourney, we're gonna have in the first episode, we're gonna have this grand tourney, my child's gonna be born at the same time, it's gonna be great. Child is born, ends up dying, so does the wife, and then you look at the hunt, we're gonna go hunt this mythical creature, and I'm gonna kill it, and he couldn't even do it, tied down, you know? He
yep.
gets in a fight in front of everybody with this, it's just everything goes wrong for this poor fucking guy, man, and I was starting to feel bad at this point, but
Yeah,
I think he's just too good of a king. He's not Tommen too good, right?
right.
But he's just he doesn't have it. Like, he's just he needs to step down. I'm surprised that nobody has, uh, given him that advice yet. Like, "Dude, you maybe should step down because
It
a king's supposed to be a strong figurehead
yeah, yeah.
for the kingdom, and you're literally
Especially
dying of leprosy or whatever the hell he has."
yeah, and especially if, he wants Rhaenyra to be queen and his heir, like, it might be better if he were to step down and, like, help with that transition instead of just
Right.
die and
Yeah.
create a vacuum that is
Right.
looming, and he knows it too, everyone's told him this, so
Yeah.
he should in theory step down, and maybe that'll happen, maybe he will step down and before he dies, pass it off there, and there is some sense of status quo while he's alive where
Right.
Allison's fine, her children are fine, and we get more of him into the future, and then he dies, then it all kinda hits the fan.
Yeah. And I don't even know, like, what like, is it even possible for him to step down and put his daughter up there? Like, is that even a thing that happens in this time? Well, like, I've never heard of
He's
anybody in this
he's
world
the
doing
king,
that,
he can do whatever he
but he can
wants,
do whatever he wants, yeah.
but yeah, they don't really kinda mention that in tradition, and so far every we've seen, like, you gotta die. Um,
I feel like that would bring
Everything in
up
Game of Thrones, they all died, like,
right,
Baratheon forward all had to die, everyone
yeah.
the king has to die.
I feel like it would bring up more issues maybe if he did do that because the kingdom elected him essentially at that grand council or whatever they called it.
Yeah,
So if he steps down and puts his daughter up there, like, already half the kingdom doesn't want her on the throne because she's a female. So if he does that, like, maybe it would cause more issues than what's actually happening now. Like,
yeah,
he's got a grip on the kingdoms. He's just falling apart himself, right? For
yeah,
the most part, everything's going smoothly in the kingdoms. Now that the stepstone stuff is somewhat handled, I'm sure we're gonna get more stepstone stuff in this season, maybe even later seasons, because I know that in the books it's a much bigger conflict. So it did seem like it fizzled out rather quick.
mhm.
But anyway, go ahead, continue.
No, yeah, that's all just kind of meandering about there in the middle. But yeah, Damon kills his wife, and basically we get a collection of scenes. But the first kind of second scene here is the king is ill. He's barely holding it together on the boat. He's throwing up over the side, which was one of the better throw up scenes
Yeah.
I've seen. Like
Yeah.
usually, like they just do like a quick like spit of some
Right.
fluid, but like he had like two or three like lunges of
Yeah.
vomit, which, you know, I think that was a little bit more convincing. I don't like it when they just do a quick, like, "Bleh," like,
Yeah.
when has anyone just, like, had a
Never.
quick, like, throw up
Right.
and then just like, "Alright, I'm done." Like,
Yeah,
no,
my
there's, like,
dog does it
2.
every now and then, but not a
Yeah.
human.
Yeah, not a human. Like, when we get sick, like, it'd be too weird if we just passively walked around and was like, "Hold on, bleh," like, and then
Right.
we're kinda like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
then
I
we're
feel
good.
better." Like,
Yeah.
no, you need, like, a good 2 or 3.
Yeah, I agree. Did you take that as he is I took that as he was getting seasick, right? Not that he's sick from whatever he has.
I took it as he's getting seasick, but because he is so weak, like, he can't even, you'd think, someone that can ride a dragon can also
Right.
be on a boat pretty fine,
Yeah.
and it's just another situation of where the king is just, like, weakened, like, this
Yeah.
dude's, like, looking pretty pathetic,
Right. I agree, yeah.
so, yeah, and they're sailing to Driftmark, and, we see, um, his new hand. Was he hand before in the last episode? I completely forgot, or is this the first
No.
time we see,
Yeah,
him be the
the
new hand?
very end of the episode was just him taking the hand away from Otto.
That's right, that's right,
So,
that's right,
he
yep.
is finally got his name. This is the unnamed character
Yeah,
that we have been I'm getting Amber Alert on my phone, sorry if you can
oh,
hear it.
no,
It's Lionel Strong is
yes,
this character, and the Gimp that we thought
the son.
is his son. So it's
And
not
then he has a bigger, stronger son too that picks up Rhaenyra later
Yes,
in the
yep,
wedding.
correct. So I think I don't know if we said he was a Lannister, that
I
Gimp
thought
guy
he was a
maybe.
Lannister.
Yeah, so we do get another scene with him in this,
Yes.
and he gives me major Littlefinger vibes, and I think it's
Yep.
because of the way he talks.
Yes. I
I don't
mean,
know if
also
that's
the
it.
content of what he's pushing
What he's
too.
pushing, right.
Yeah, yeah. But what would their last name be? Like, they are because his son is Larry's. It's spelled Larry's, but I think it's said like Laris.
There
Um,
yeah,
so they're
yep.
the Strongs. They're like that's the house, like the Strongs.
Strongs, yep.
Um, they're an interesting bit, and we get to see really finally the collective 3 of them operate in this episode. We've
Yeah,
only gotten like bits of them separately,
right,
but I like that we get the kind of snarly, sneaky Gimp son. We get the big, strong, like does as his dad says son, and then we kind of get the in the middle. Like his dad isn't kind of like a sneaky gimp, like trying to
right.
weasel around. He's
Yep,
more a little bit more upstanding, but he's also not a big brute. But he has a son who does his bidding. That's a big brute.
right.
Um, and I
Definitely a
can't,
good combination of sons to have, the thinker and the brute.
yeah, and I can't place if he is, his true nature, right? Is he more like his one son, or is he more true like he pretends to be? Because he
We've
he definitely observes and advises. He doesn't take as much assertive action as Otto, but obviously it's just like his first week on the job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. He's one that I don't know if he's going to. Would he just be like, Rhaenyra, I'm just going to keep kind of supporting you, or is he going to like flip to the Allison side?
Yeah, we don't know because everything that we've seen so far, he's seemingly counseling the king on things that don't directly affect him in any way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we have the hunt, he doesn't offer up his son to marry Rhaenyra. He offers
Mm-hmm.
up the Valerian. So I
Yeah.
don't know. So far, we haven't seen anything from him that would make me think that he has an agenda, but he may, and he's just playing it very, very well, right? He's
Yeah.
not
Right.
overplaying his hand like Otto did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I take him as like a true dude so far, man,
Mm-hmm.
until we see otherwise.
Yeah.
There's no reason yet to think so.
Yeah. So then we get our first panning shot of Driftmark there, the island as they approach. Kind of semi-stormy. Nothing too impressive, but it's got a decent scape there. It's just a castle on like a little rocky island. Nothing crazy going on, but
Right.
we get a little bit more of it in a bit. Um, the next scene that we kind of get sliced in here is a pretty good one and a pretty important one, and that's Alicent saying goodbye to her father. It's pouring at the Red Keep, and her father's at the main gate. getting ready to ride off, and Allison and her giant umbrella come out to say goodbye to him.
Yeah.
But more so, she's kind of like, you know, protesting the fact that he's leaving at all, and he kind of alludes that's her doing, her choices that she made that's kind of led to him going, and how she isn't dumb, but she just kind of pretends to be blind to like some certain truths, and he kind of lays some hard, very, he's just this like very stoic guy, like doesn't like ever
Yes.
say I
Yeah.
love you, doesn't like show emotion, but like he means it and cares. He shows it at the same time, but at the same time he's just like, hey, here's the reality.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
you got to make a choice, because he told her this after she pressed him about pushing Aegon so strong. He's like made the point like I kind of have to, like it's either that or we die, and it's
Right.
kind of the whole you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die from
Yeah,
Cersei.
absolutely. Yeah. Good drawback. Yeah, I again, I'm glad that I was wrong last week. I didn't think Otto was gonna make it out of the capital. He seemingly, at least as of now, has made it, out of there, so I'm excited for that. I'm
Viserys would
hoping.
never let anything bad happen to him. He still
Yeah.
eternally respects Otto and
Yeah, I mean,
everything.
he didn't at the end of the day, he didn't really do anything that's worthy of death, right?
Right.
But at the same time, we do have the biggest wild card on the show in Damon, who does not like Otto even remotely. We've seen it multiple times throughout the series. So I kind of thought for a second that we were going to get another scene of him like rolling out of the Capitol and Damon in his little hooded cloak, just knocking off the people that he needs to knock off before he can finish his plan. But I'm glad we didn't, because I think that Otto's definitely going to make the time jump. That's exciting. But again, we're even like we talked about last week, like the dragons just seem so lopsided on this in this series, right? The civil war between the Targaryens. But I think that you have to assume that Alicent's children are going to be dragon riders, right? I mean, they have to be. Otherwise, they're not going to have any dragons over there, correct? Am I
Right.
missing anything on that side?
No, because and this is kind of alluded to later when Viserys talks about like the second age of dragons, right? So we're
Yeah.
kind of in a lull of a great dragon age, right? We only have I think four, right? There's the two Valerians and then there's the two Targaryen dragons. So all four are accounted for until another Valerian or dragon riding Targaryen comes of age and can do it. So I think we'll have more dragons definitely by the end of this end of this season, end of this series, maybe into next season. But I was thinking about this, and maybe it doesn't quite matter because they've already exercised both in Game of Thrones to a good degree, and also in this period of time too. There are ways to win against dragons,
Right.
so there is enough, I think, support Allison could have to where a Targaryen would literally have to go mad and burn everything down. Like that's kind of like the game at play. And
Right.
you just kind of pray that that's not what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see. Uh, it's just, you have to assume that there's a wild card that we don't see yet that's going to add to
It's
Alicent's
that big
power.
dragon,
That
that big big dragon.
yeah, yeah, that big dragon, definitely. It was cool also to see, who's the 12-year-old girl that they tried to marry the king too? What is her name?
I
Um,
forget her name
the
already, but
Valerian
she's older
daughter
now.
anyway. But yeah,
Yeah,
she's much older in this episode, which I thought was cool.
her now. Laenor is her brother, who is,
So,
or is the other guy that's always with her her twin?
that's
I
her
thought.
twin, the other one. It's
Okay, so
not
there's
Laenor. I think
three.
Laenor is the
The
older
older
brother.
one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
had
because he
previously
came out
confused them.
walking with her when they first made it
Yep.
Driftmark there. So I think
Yeah.
that other guy is I don't know. Are they twins? They're close in age. I don't know if they're twins per
I took it
se,
as their twins because
but they might.
I thought they had a Cersei Jamie thing going on
Oh yeah, you did say that
because
because they were close at the yeah, you're
I
right.
felt like they alluded to the fact that they had affection for each other
Yeah.
and then the older brother here, Laenor, makes more sense because he's much older. Because he was on the Stepstones fighting, so that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
And then also he doesn't have a thing for his sister. He has a thing for his, I think, like his kind of like his King's Guard
Yeah, that's how I took that guy.
because
Uh,
they're sword fighting training. And then also the comment he makes there to Christian about they need sworn protectors, and he also told Laenor he'll be his sworn protector. Blah blah blah. So I think that's currently like his like bodyguard, much like
yeah, that's how
Cole
I
is
took it.
too.
Yep, that's how I took it too.
Yeah. So and that's an interesting scene too, where the king arrives at Driftmark, and isn't really greeted by anything. Like it's just a kind
Right.
of desolate place there at the top of the castle in the main courtyard, and kind of run down too. Interesting enough, it's just like kind of nice on the inside.
Yeah.
But we get Laenor and his lover basically sparring, and then the hands kind of ticked off. Like where the hell's the Corliss and the greeting party, and then the daughter and her brother just come out to bring them in. So interesting little scene. Get to see a little bit more of the castle, but also I think it was necessary to kind of outline like all the Valyrians here as they kind of pop out of the woodwork,
Right,
full
yeah.
form.
Yeah, you had to lay out everyone that's there, how much older they are than the last time we saw them, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was a nice little FU from Corliss to not go out there, 'cause we
Yes.
have to remember that he is still obviously pissy about the whole Rhaenyra thing from earlier in the show. That I think gets squashed in this season, hopefully, we'll see moving forward.
Yeah, and that is I mean that's just like kind of like it is what it is, like a trait of a peacetime king. Like you don't get all in a tizzy over
Yeah,
those slight like
right,
insults, right?
right.
The hand's there to get insulted for you. You came there for a reason. Getting
Yeah,
mad about that isn't really going to progress that, and
absolutely.
that's kind of like his legacy as the peacetime king, which we touch on later. Um, and then a lot of little quick scenes here. So then we're in the Godswood, and Alicent's just kind of like contemplating like her father leaving and like the decisions she's made. And this is where Lord Laris here slips her just the information about Rhaenyra getting delivered a tea, and like she might not be well. And I thought it was a little loose for her to just assume that this tea was. He says she's unwell, and it was that night, and maybe it's just assumed like there is this tea that does
Yeah, I think
act like
that's
that.
yeah, I think it's a combination of everything that she has heard prior to this, that
Mhm.
she might have slept with Damon, yada, yada, yada,
Yeah.
and the tea that's the combo. But, yeah, I did think that was a little odd too, like,
It was a
I would
brash it
imagine
was a big assumption.
it was a big assumption for sure, because I would imagine they solve a lot of issues with tea back in this time, so, you
But
know?
maybe the fact that it didn't come from, like it came right from the king's order, from the Grand Maester to her on that night, maybe that was enough, like,
Yeah, like,
lineup
it's like
there.
the plan B pill, you gotta take it quick, so
Yep.
and she talked to her that night and could tell that she was not unwell or whatever the guy was saying, like, she
Yeah,
wasn't
like, she
sick,
knows for
so
sure.
yeah,
But
so it lines up. It was a little loose, but if you think about it, it's just everything that she has in her head is what's leaning her to the plan T, if you will.
yeah, and Laris here both obviously slips that important bit of information in a sly way, but also, like, the entire dialogue, he just plays to her, kind of her sensibilities, like the way he frames his conversation to her, and just kind of like plays into her hand a little bit. But obviously, she gets what she needs out of that conversation and just kind of goes about her day. But this is where she really starts to like really think about
Yeah,
like what's really happening here.
and, the more that I think about our conversation earlier about his father, do you think his father sent him there to do that?
This is why I was questioning his father,
Yeah,
because not who else would have known about
right,
that really particular set of events. So either
right.
Lord Varys or Varys, I want to say Varys, but he is this his own agenda, right? Because we don't really see him ever speaking with his father, so it could be very
Right.
well he's playing his own agenda about everywhere, or and he just heard it from his dad because his dad might tell him these things in confidence. So it's hard to say right now if his dad is pulling some strings here, propagating some information where it needs to go,
Yeah,
or not.
the more that I think about it, he gives me because if you go back to the tournament or not the tournament episode, the hunt episode where
Hmm.
he like comes in and sits down with all the gossipers, like he seems like the inside man his father is using to propel whatever agenda he has in mind.
Hmm.
And he's covering it up really well because that's really the only thing that would make you somewhat second guess the father is this
Yeah, I
guy
think
here.
I would like to think if he is a little bit more nefarious and he leads on, he is aware of Otto's missteps, and he's not going to repeat
He's not
those
gonna repeat
missteps by
him.
Otto.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I'm not going to right away trust him because he comes off as a very trustable,
He
likable
does. Yeah.
guy. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, he might not be everyone.
Right.
He just might not be. There's hints already that this
Yeah.
is not looking right.
Yep.
Um, and also, these are things that um, perhaps we pick up on because we kind of like look at every little bit. Whereas, like, if you're not keeping up with like who's who and whose sons is who, like we're really reading into the details here. So
Yeah, I'll be
I
in
think there will be the episode where it's like, oh my god, that's his son. Duh, like shady.
right. Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like this show might suffer very, very deeply for somebody watching it if they're not paying attention to those little nuances. Because we're about to get a 10-year time jump. We're probably gonna get a whole hell of a lot of new characters, new children,
Yep.
new
A lot of names we've
marriages.
heard, but they're like 20 years old
Now they're
and
20
they can
years
ride
old.
dragons.
Yep. So it could be very complicated. So I'm curious to see how they play that, if they're going to hold our hand through this first
Mhm.
episode and the time jump and kind of explain because they really didn't even do that in the first episode of the series. They didn't really
I don't
hold
think
our
they're
hand
going
too
to. I
much.
think that's
Yeah,
gonna be our job.
yeah. So
Um,
we'll see. We'll see how the public takes the time jump if they think it's gets very confusing very quick because we have new actresses and
at
new
least they
characters altogether.
at least the Valerian children have already swapped actors. So really the two main focus characters are just going to jump. So they just have to focus on saying, hey, Rhaenyra, Alicent, new actors. If
Right.
they make that abundantly clear, I think everyone can mostly pick up the breadcrumbs from this episode, right? And say, like, okay, saw them last episode, we're good.
Yeah.
Just these two. Like, who are these two?
Right.
As long as those two are made abundantly clear who they are,
Yeah.
we should be okay.
Yeah,
It'll just
sure.
be really bad if someone's like, "Oh, that's Alicent," like in
Yeah.
episode 8, like,
Yeah, right.
duh. Um, um, so yeah, so that was a very very Game of Thrones type scene. As we get some real palace intrigue going
Oh,
on,
for sure.
that was really some serious palace intrigue, just because it's information that we know as the viewer, and we're watching it just kind of move around
Yeah.
the characters.
Yeah. And it's a big scene because it leads us to the rest of the series and really leads Alicent down the road that she takes at the end of this episode. And this is where it really I mean, she had her
Her
probably
dad set her up for it, but
yeah.
then, I
But
mean,
this
maybe
this
her
kinda
dad.
was the pushing like, her dad gave her a little nudge, this guy pushed, and then
Hmm.
Kristen Cole, you know, started the motor, if you will.
Maybe that was her dad's last like thing before he left the castle. He told Laris to track her down and slip that to her. Maybe it's
Yeah, it could've
maybe it's
been.
not his dad.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he's like not necessarily loyal to his father. So
Yeah, that's also we don't know that too, yeah.
these Strongs are a mystery right now.
They
We
are.
will
We didn't
hopefully
even know
learn
their
more.
name until this episode here.
They're coming out strong.
Yeah.
Coming out strong. Um, Next scene, we get Viserys meeting with Corlys on Driftmark. You know, we see the king dwindling by I would say by the hour, if not the day here. Like
For
he's
sure,
just
yeah.
really declining. He's barely able to stand, but he's not going to sit, even though he's offered a seat. Um, and mostly it's very cordial. No one's trying to kill anybody.
Right.
And Chorus is very professional in that manner, even though he makes rude gestures and does lose his temper at times. I think he does like. I think they even make comments somewhere that it is not appropriate for the king and the party to sail to Driftmark
Right.
to make the proposal. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
think Quarles recognizes the gravity of the situation. Like the king has come to him to propose this situation, and the king, wise as he is, entertains Chorus um counter. He's like, I need some details. Like, how
Yeah.
does the succession work? And he even gives him a little bit on that. He's like, which doesn't make sense in my mind. Like, I guess it's kind of a middle ground, but it's like they can have Valerian name, but as soon as whichever one ascends the throne, then they go back to Targaryen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess what that does is so long as like those branches of the family tree are out there, that's more Valyrians in the world, except for the one
Right. Yep.
that needs to
Absolutely.
become the heir. So
Yep. So it's a good middle ground for him for sure.
yeah,
Uh,
because the
and
king's like, I just need one.
yeah, he
You can
just
have
needs
the
one.
rest.
Yeah. Because essentially, I mean, I guess Damon could carry on the family line, but the family line is kind of low here at the moment, right? I mean,
Yeah,
we don't have
correct.
that many heirs and older Targaryens, which find is a little odd that there's not that many Targaryens in the show when you really look at it, right? There's
They're
3,
four.
4?
Of course, is
So
the princess,
yeah,
Rhaenys,
yeah, 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 yeah.
Rhaenyra,
Yeah,
Daemon,
right.
and there's the little ones. But yeah,
There's gotta be more out there is what I'm saying, like, there has to be more coming. Because if there's 19 dragons out there or whatever we said at the beginning of this, like, they have to have riders. So there's more waiting in the wings, I would imagine.
yeah, especially with the time jump, we'll probably get some more come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
They don't want to confuse too many people. Or
Right.
have two families with blonde hair. If everyone's
Yeah.
just got blonde hair, we'll really get lost.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, they strike that deal. That goes over well. And then we have Laenor and Rhaenyra walking the beach, and basically, um, and I caught this on the second watch. She was picking up on Laenor's lover like from the very first time she
Oh,
sees
yeah.
him. So basically, she basically alludes to the fact that he doesn't like women. He won't be much into her. She's okay with that. They'll have like an open relationship. So in very few words, they basically get each other's drift and
Right.
they agree that they can love who they want to love and everything will be purely political. And this is Rhaenyra really kind of being very mature
Yes.
about, or well, mature or just very strategic on how she sets up her future.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I thought it was a cool touch. I like that they have this agreement right out the gate. You know what I mean? It's not like, and the marriages in this time were a political thing, and we've seen that millions of times, right?
Yeah,
Not really anybody marries for love in this time in this world. So it's cool that they have that mutual agreement. Like maybe if Robert and Cersei had had that mutual agreement, things would have went a little smoother between them, you know?
I think they did though unspokenly over time.
Maybe unspokenly,
Um,
yeah. But
and they did
she
have that.
says multiple times throughout the series that she loved him,
Yeah,
when they first got
they had a
married, so
complicated relationship.
for sure, yeah, that's one way to
Very
put it.
complicated. Um, and then we get a little bit here where Corlys and Rhaenys are kind of talking after the fact, and Corlys is very bent on this whole like fix the wrongs that have happened to his wife, and she just basically says like she's let all that go and he needs to let it go too. She's more concerned with the danger their family is now put in because they've
Yeah,
essentially aligned with Rhaenyra, who is not the favored, and we know Rhaenys is not a fan of this plot to get Rhaenyra as the queen because she's just jaded by her experience and is just saying, "Hey, all the guys here are gonna just burn you to the ground, and now you're married to my son. and he's gonna go right with
Yeah,
it, and blah
he's
blah
gonna be in the
blah.
crossfire. Yeah, and I think that Corlys is somewhat blinded on, and I think he says something about getting justice,
Yep.
and I took that as when we go back to his and Damon's discussion at Driftmark the first time that we see him, and he talks about how the Valerians weren't dragon riders and the Targaryens were, so they were the better house in old Valyria and they had to go out to the sea. So I took that as he still wants to get somebody in his bloodline on that Iron Throne, even though he has done a hell of a good job for himself because he is maybe the richest house in Westeros right now,
Mhm.
right? He still wants that cap at the end of it. You know what I mean? It's not enough
Yep.
for him. So he wants that justice. The Targaryens have overshadowed him for so long, his family. He wants to get rid of that and he wants to put somebody on his blood in his bloodline up on the throne.
Yeah, and, he technically has the I mean, his house is half Targaryen anyways because of
Right.
his wife,
Yeah.
so, like, they are
It's a complicated little weave he's got going on there.
yeah, and it goes back to the fact that, Viserys should have married someone in his family anyways because that
Right.
would have been the correct thing to do from the get-go,
Yep.
but he made his choice. So I thought this was just a cool scene to have because we just get more of them. We get more of we get a once again a very very real perspective here from Renice from
Mhm.
just like the reality of what's going to happen, and it's
Right.
kind of it mirrors what Otto was saying to Alicent, like from the opposite end. Like Otto was saying, like, listen, our family's going to die,
Yeah.
whereas Renice is
They all
like,
see it.
now
Yeah.
ours might die.
Right.
Meanwhile,
They know she even says the knives are gonna come out over this. So everybody seems to see it except for the people that need to see it, right?
yeah, and that's really except our main characters. They're,
Yeah.
the king is kind of he just has to carry on the, the tradition, right? He's got his like dead end goal, like
Yep.
whatever it takes to get there. Um Rhaenyra is kind of absent-minded of it. She's kind of ignorant to like the true politics at play.
Right.
Alicent was. She now has that leg up on Rhaenyra. Meanwhile, there's Damon, who is just really out for Damon. So he's kind of like our four main characters now outside of Alicent are kind of in that boat. We're not on the same plane of reality as everyone else. Alicent's there now, but the other three Targaryens are not.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
They kind of just get like Targaryen like buys. Like they
Yeah.
just you know they're like, we don't have to worry about all this other stuff. We are just here
Right.
and that's it.
Yeah.
Um so like that was a nice intimate scene, and we're getting a lot of these like pairing intimate scenes kind of here. Not intimate in terms of like any kind of sexual activity, but intimate in terms of just like people's relationships with each other and having very honest conversations. So we've had
Yeah.
Alicent and her father, we've had Corlys and his wife, and then now we get one between Sir Christian Cole and Rhaenyra, and this is
Yeah. Love
basically
this. Yeah.
Sir Christian Cole making his bout
Yeah.
for
Falling hard, bro.
run away
Yeah.
with me to Essos for love.
Right.
And then she just cold Targaryen, like,
Yeah.
no, like I'm a Targaryen. I'm going to be queen, and can't we just like bang on the side like we
Yeah.
were? Like, what's
Yeah.
up, bro?
Not into it. She's like, hey, I
Um,
got White Walkers coming. Like my dad said the White Walkers are
mhm,
coming. So like I can't really do this, but we can
yeah,
still do it like on the side, you know?
yeah,
I
yeah,
love this scene. I love Cole's character. I think it's funny that he's just fallen so hard for her. He's like
yeah.
he's supposed to
Poor
be
guy.
the like knight in shining armor, but really she's like the knight in shining armor, and he's fallen super hard for her. So I really enjoyed this, and I liked where this took his character through the episode and where he ended up at the end of the episode as well. I thought it was a nice little twist because I wasn't thinking they were going to go in that route.
Yeah, he totally put on the layer of like Romeo and Juliet over this
Yeah.
situation. He's just, to the death. Like, let's just run away and just solve all our problems by not dealing with it.
Yeah, he just
Um,
didn't have a very good sales pitch, you know? He's
yeah,
like,
and he was like,
like, there's these boats and they have oranges and cinnamon, and we could like get on one and just go see where they go.
you
Like,
always complain about your lot in life. Like, it
right.
could just all go away, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I guess, but then I wouldn't be queen,
Right.
dork.
Yeah. She's very
Poor guy.
naive for the queen thing. She is very dead set on becoming queen, even though she should be picking up on the signs here that this is not going to end well. But
Yeah. So yeah, I thought yeah, we get a strong kind of tropey move from Sir Christian Cole. And this is like the first of at least two main tropes that
yeah,
his character does in this.
yeah,
I don't like the second one. I wasn't a big fan of this one. I'm not a fan of the other one he has either. But it's just the arc of his character, which does make sense for his character. I mean,
yeah.
he's just a poor boy from like
He
a small
is
family, and
banged the princess, and now
what
he's
do you,
in
yeah,
love.
yeah, what are you gonna, what are you gonna do? You don't know how to deal with these things.
Right.
So the king returns to the Red Keep. This is kind of like a cool visual because Allison's watching from high above, and the king's getting back with his group, and he just kind of collapses right out of the carriage, and she's just like really like not
Couldn't
amused
yeah,
by
couldn't
like
couldn't care less is the
not that
vibe
she
I got.
could. Yeah, I wouldn't say like she couldn't care less, but she's just like back to the same old crap. Like
Right.
nothing's changed. Like he's just falling apart.
Yep.
Um, Meanwhile, I've having been some real conversation with my dad who left, and I got some other juicy information. So she's elevated herself here,
Yeah, definitely.
and she's definitely become like a watcher, and more of a thinker now that her dad's gone, and she kind of has to.
Yeah, she goes through a big transformation in this episode for sure. From everything that we've seen prior, she's starting to grasp the Game of Thrones, right? This is it.
Hmm.
This is her first step into that world in this episode, and I loved all the scenes that showed that.
Yeah, and I think she has realized how much she's like right in the exact position she needs to be from the get go. She's like, hey, guess what? You get to start this like 20-person race, and you get start in first place, and then
Yeah,
everyone else has to catch up.
right.
Because guess what? You are queen. And that is, I like the way this is shown later too. But right after that, she then calls Cole to her quarters because then she's going to question him about that night, and this is the trope. Like
Yeah,
I don't like it, but it happened.
yeah,
She's basically saying, "Hey, like I'm pretty sure I know what I know something happened. You were should have been there. Like what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh my god, it was me. I can't hold
yeah,
this in anymore.
yeah,
You're the queen. You're gonna behead me. Like you might as well kill me too because it was the worst thing I could have done. Like just kill me instead of torturing me." And she's just like, "Whoa."
yeah,
First,
yeah.
first out, she's just like,
Not what I was saying. Not what I
she's
was
like, "Not
saying.
what I was saying. I'm glad you're being honest. Slow down.
Yeah.
Um, Go take a break."
Yeah, man. I loved this, and primarily for its comedic purposes because
It
he
was well
just
done.
he immediately gives it up. Like there's not even any prying whatsoever. She's just being so vague that he
Yeah,
thinks that he, he thinks she's talking about him and Rhaenyra when she's certainly asking about Daemon and Rhaenyra, but she doesn't say that, and he
no.
just instantly says it happened.
She
I'm
yeah,
like,
because
what?
she's going about like the sensitive topic,
Yeah,
like hands get fired over this. Like
right.
I'm just asking loosely, and he's like, "Oh my god, I can't hold it any longer."
I
Yeah, so
thought
he
it was so
completely
good,
spills
dude.
the beans in the wrong direction. Instead of lying, not that I mean, it's a tough situation. Like she is the queen, and he understands and recognizes that, and even offers his life up because he's like, just kill me
Yeah, I think
for what
he's
I've
got
done.
yeah, honestly, I think he's got, like he went through a breakup, right? So he's got the revenge or maybe feels really terrible about what he did because he does say, like and
Well,
it
he
might
doesn't
be
have
later.
love. He doesn't
Yeah,
have love now, and like it's the breakup thing, and it's almost like he now feels very unfulfilled for what he did, and now it's just like a sin that's weighing upon him,
right,
and now like literal like God is now like alluding to the sin that you have committed in a
right.
roundabout way, and you're just like, oh my god, I can't. There's no way he would have lied through that
No, yeah, I don't
successfully.
think so, yeah, and that's
Um,
gotta be a rough position to be in, even
Yeah.
keeping it in as long as he did, because you gotta imagine, like, at some point, you're sitting there thinking, like, "I'm gonna get beheaded at some point." Like, this is going to come out eventually.
Yeah, and also, he's not a thinker, right?
Right,
He's attorney jockey, right?
right.
Who has he's a fighter. Wordplay and thinking about things isn't really what he does. He protects people and he's a
Yep,
warrior. So the second already weighing on him, the second someone even like alludes to the fact that he knows something he probably shouldn't, like he's gonna spit it right out. She was smart for asking like who she in her mind was like, oh, he's the closest person to her, right? Bodyguard probably knows something. That's
yeah,
a smart thing to do. Let alone she stumbled upon the greatest bit of information
right.
she ever could have.
Yep,
And this is where, in her position, she is 10 steps ahead of everyone. Only she knows this because Varys, who told her this, and everyone else who knows thinks it's Damon.
right,
Everyone thinks it's
absolutely.
Damon.
Yes.
No one except Rhaenyra and Cole know.
Yeah.
And now she is the third party operator that now knows the most important information.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a good. I will admit that I don't get why she gets so pissy about this through the rest of the episode, because really Rhaenyra did not lie to her, because she was asking about Damon, correct?
No. So, yes, part 1. Part 2 of her kind of lecturing Rhaenyra was her maidenness, like to be a
Oh, you're
maiden.
right. Yeah, 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 you're right. Yeah.
So, 1, thank God it wasn't your uncle, right? And made that mess. 2, not at all, period, because you should be a maiden, you should be pure, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. So she did lie to her at that extent. And while it wasn't exactly what everyone else thinks, Allison now has like a different level of understanding where, Rhaenyra betrayed her trust, right?
Yep.
Maybe Rhaenyra should have been like, it wasn't Damon, but I did sleep with Sir Christian Cole. It was my fault. So, but she didn't. Rhaenyra, and this is what was uncomfortable about Rhaenyra's character was she was weaving a lie without telling the whole truth there and was very confident to Allison that like nothing happened. I'm completely innocent of any kind of charges.
Yeah, you're
When
right.
in
I
fact,
forgot about that second
yeah,
scene.
half of the allegation is very true. And that was the more important allegation to Allison was the fact that she was no longer a maiden.
Right.
So that so and basically it's the whole like she backed her dad and Rhaenyra, or sorry, she backed her husband, the king, and Rhaenyra, and then they both lied to her because the king knew that something happened, even though the king still thinks it was Damon, just in case. The king was just doing like a super safe, just in case. Um, but he still lied because he wasn't honest to Allison. Be like, hey, I sent her this tea because I think she might have, did something somewhere just to be super extra safe. So in her mind, both of them lied to her.
Yes.
And she kind of feels like she made the wrong move and got her dad ousted.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was all very becoming of her character, where she has kind of really stepped up a few notches on the InfoWars front. She's moving in that direction. She's going to become scary. She's getting scary. She's scary in the art. Like she just has that look in her eye.
Yeah.
Um, and then we start getting little bits like this that I think are important. The king's like treated for his illness, and it's the Grand Maester in the hand, and they're just kind of dealing with the same crap. And Grand Maester's just like, oh, more leeches. It seems to help him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I
They're
like,
very big on the bugs and trying to treat this for whatever reason, because we had maggots originally,
maggots
now the
eating the
leeches.
rotting flesh and
Yeah.
leeches just sucking out the impure blood, I guess.
Yep.
but he asks where Alicent is, and the hand's just like, I'm told she's just like preoccupied. And normally this is where we saw in like previous episodes, Alicent would have came to his aid, helped him, been the good wife. She's no longer doing that. She's
Right.
busy.
Yep. Missing.
And that's kind of like the nod to him, like, fuck you, bro.
Yeah.
Um,
For sure. Yeah.
you might as well have been at that whorehouse that night,
Right.
you dirtbag. That's basically, I think, what she's saying there.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of like sad to him because at least he had her, and now he like
Nothing.
doesn't.
Right. He's got absolutely nobody.
And this is where the party starts. Valerians and all their boats and dragons come rolling into King's Landing.
Yep.
We get at least we're getting like a little dragons every episode.
Yeah, we're very low on the dragon action in this series so far. It's been very few and far between. And I think
It
it's
was
because of where we're at in the story,
yeah.
right? There's not a whole lot of reason to see them because we've really action-wise only seen the stepstones, right? So,
I'm thankful for what we've gotten so
I
far.
am
'Cause
too. Yeah.
they didn't have to do that so early on in the
Right.
season, but so this we earned this law, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And it's cool to see them flying around in their dragon together. Like they're a perfect match, bro. Let's be honest. Even though minus the fact that he's not into women, but besides that, the two dragons flying,
Yeah.
perfect match.
Yeah, and he fits the bill. He's got combat experience. She likes that.
Yep.
That's how Cole got his job.
Right.
So like he basically won the Stepstones thing outside of Damon being like,
It was his plan.
yeah, it was his plan.
Yeah.
He's the only one making logical decisions down there.
Right.
Can't all be Damon and just be
Right.
immune to arrows and
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, that's where we get the bit where it's like a 9-day wedding ordeal. If from the math, if I'm just assuming there's like the pre-day, there's the 7-day tourney, then there's the wedding
Then
day, I
there's the
guess.
wedding. Yeah.
So at least 9 days. I like this entrance scene into the Great Hall, kind of like all the main houses coming. We get the typical sleazy comments from Jason Lannister.
Yeah.
Usually
Still
just
love
some
his
kind of
character.
misogynistic, like
Yeah.
women suck comments.
Right.
And we also get Sir Gerald, who we saw way back at the beginning of the episode. And this is the cousin of Damon's now dead wife. And he's basically there with an agenda. Like, my cousin's dead. I don't feel great about it. And King and Rhaenyra are just like, oh yeah, we heard. We're sorry for your loss. Very wedding-esque talk.
Right.
But he kind of steps down from his pedestal there because the Valerians make a grand entrance.
Yes, they do. Yeah, definitely love this whole intro scene. I'll take every scene with the Lannisters in it, especially Jason. I think he's great. He just feels like a Lannister. You know what I mean?
Feels like an old school Lannister.
He does. He does. He feels like an old school Lannister for sure. So yeah. I really, like I said earlier in the episode, I really like this whole scene, the way it's put together, everything. And especially especially like I said earlier, Damon rolling in and everybody's eyes kind of widening as he comes strolling into the hall.
Yeah, because the Valerians show up and there's all of them are there. They got their whole entourage too. Like they take
Yep.
their seats at the main table to join the Targaryens. Then their main party moves off to the right. And then after them, Damon kind of saunters in all by himself to whispers and like gasps of everybody because last we checked, he was banished
Right.
again. And
Yeah.
here he comes showing up to the party. He's kind of at this point the like that family member, right?
That guy, yeah.
But he gets a seat at the table though, right? And not a planned one because they had to pull a chair up from the back. But,
Yeah. Well, it's not worth making a fuss of. The king's plans never go the way that they intend, like we said earlier. So there's no point in being fussy about it. Like, just pull up a chair, sit the fuck down, and please be quiet.
and that is his legacy, and we skipped over that. So him in the hand, when he was like feeling really ill, they did have kind of like a heart to heart in terms of like, what is my legacy as
Yeah,
king? Like, I have nothing to conquer. I didn't have any great like catastrophes. Like, it was just boring, and I wasn't tested. And the hand's like, most people wish for that sort of role.
right, right.
So they kind of contemplate that back and forth, and this is kind of that situation where, when he's just like visually not happy with
Yeah,
what's happening, but as the good king he is, on with the festivities.
yeah, and it's cool because that is his goal, is to keep the peacetime that was coming, that he inherited, right? And I think that really he's gonna die with that in place. Now everything's gonna pop off after, but his legacy is still a peacetime king, and he's going to continue to be a peacetime king. The problem with that is that he made a crucial error in that peacetime by, and they show it really well in the first episode where Jaehaerys elects the next heir to prevent a war over the
Hmm.
succession. Viserys does not do that. He appoints Rhaenyra without anybody else's opinion, right? So I like that they show that parallel. So I really did enjoy that scene where they're talking about his legacy, because really it's intact at the current moment and will be intact up until his death, I would imagine, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and you know, um, the king before him, he did that because there were more Targaryens, and so instead of choosing himself and causing a war amongst his family, he went that route. And that's basically how we get the more peaceful bout between the cousins, right? Viserys and Rhaenys.
I mean,
Um,
Viserys still has that choice too that he could have made between Daemon and Rhaenyra. He could have done the same exact thing. Now,
and it was to right. But I think he likes to think he has a better handle on things too. But also Damon was part of it. Problem was Damon was not a good person.
right.
Um,
Well, I think the reason he didn't do it that way is because he knows damn well the kingdom would have picked Daemon. No doubt they would have probably, right?
or
You
Damon would have really made a conceited effort to make sure it was him, no matter
right,
what.
right.
So I think he went that route to have control over who it was. Whereas like before, it was probably even more peaceful and more like just everyone do as the good king says
Right.
and pick the right person.
Yep.
And two very good choices. Rhaenys and Viserys are
Yes,
very,
also
very
true.
stable Targaryens.
Right.
Whereas I think the king, per usual, just does not have the easiest time with his choices and
He
his
doesn't. Yeah.
plans.
He does not.
So he's like, oh, I got to pick between freaking my shithead brother,
Right.
um, my daughter, who probably really should be the heir, and then my impossible to be born
Yeah.
boy king heir.
Right.
So yeah, he's having some trouble. Um, he just doesn't have a good time, and then like he wears it so well. Like he's just a tired, good king.
Yeah. Yep.
And he goes to start making a speech. Pretty good speech. He's good at speeches. Like he just knows how to like
Yeah, he
make
is.
everybody
Yep,
happy.
absolutely.
Likes to throw in a
He's
joke
got the
there. He's
speech
like
thing
this
down.
this small. Once we have this small affair here,
Yeah.
everyone laughs. Ha ha ha. And it's funny though too because like so much of this show so far has been just like all they do is just like party for like
Yeah.
weeks.
Yep. That's
And
literally been the whole show, yeah.
you think about it, like it's kind of like when our government takes like their 45-day like
Yeah.
summer break.
Yeah.
It's like all of these very most important people in the entire Seven Kingdoms are just having a 9-day party. Like, we're not home. Check back later. If
Yep.
it's important, don't worry about it. Like, we'll be
Yeah.
back later. Um, so yeah, like to think, how in Game of Thrones, like no one ever got together at that scale because
No, it was
everything would just stop. Like,
right.
it was impossible.
Yeah. I mean, wartime, like, we
Yeah.
were really at wartime through the entire original series, right?
Yep.
And it's cool to see how Westeros operates in peacetime because we haven't really seen that yet, and I'm enjoying every minute from the tourney to the hunt to
They're
this
dressed
wedding.
well.
Yeah, they're all dressed well, they're all chill, like, nobody's there's not a whole lot of plotting going on outside of Otto and that stuff yet, so it's cool to see this more chill moment. Is it gonna
Yeah.
be like this forever? No, certainly not.
But they're also so self-aware of just, like, how indulged they are because
Oh,
they're all
yeah.
they all know that they're on, like, a 9-day vacation to party on the crown's dime and
Yep,
just have a good time, right? And then there's gonna
yep,
be a tourney for 7 days, like,
right.
good lord. That's like a full 10-day vacation that normally we would take these days to, like, the beach,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Mike does every year, like,
yep,
"I'll be back in 2 weeks."
right.
So so yeah, they just really drive that home, and it looks good too. Like, everybody in this hall is just, like, dressed well, everything looks good, they're all eating well, it's just well done. And then Viserys just is a very good speech giver, and he just really culminates this atmosphere so well, even though nothing ever goes his way,
Right.
as his sin
Never.
doesn't.
Poor
And this is
dude.
a wedding in Westeros, and weddings in Westeros never
Very
go
bad.
off without a hitch.
Very bad
The
idea.
hitch at the end, well, they don't even make it that far.
Right.
Trying to think. Anyway, the peak of the episode here, really where like everything turns, is his speech is cut short, by he sees his wife enter the frame, and she's donning this like absolutely stunning emerald green dress, um, which is they say this. I don't think they needed to. It would have been a cool detail to find out later.
I didn't think they needed to either. I actually called out when she walked in. I just said that that's the high tower's color is
Yep.
green, you know what I mean? So I didn't think they needed to. It was a nice touch because not everybody that's
Yeah.
watching the show is like us and digging into every little morsel that we can. But yeah, they say something about when the high towers call their banners to war, the
Yep.
flame and the I don't even know what that tower's
In the
called in old time. Is it just the
yeah.
tower?
Yeah.
Burns green.
Yep.
So yeah, cool touch here, man. Absolutely loved her rolling in like this with the green dress. Like just a total middle. She might as well have her middle fingers up as she's walking in through here, you know?
Yeah, and she has her queen bitch face on,
Oh yeah. Yep.
she before she was very the submissive, passive, like just a little queen girl
Yep.
to the king, right? And then now she's kind of like owning the space, completely owning the space. She's like, I am the queen, and
Yeah.
there's no really question of that.
Yeah.
Um,
She evolved for sure.
and also what, and this is where maybe contextually why it's such a big deal might get lost, even though they explained that there's a lot of nuance to like why everyone feels the way they do with her doing this. So the king is upset because she ought to have worn a more traditional dress to a wedding event like this, because if we see her in many other all other events so far with her being queen, she's wearing a red dress, which is aligned with House Targaryen. And
Yeah.
then she usually wears like blue in like her personal neutral zone, as we see when she's like with the baby and things like that, or questioning Christian Cole. She's wearing a nice blue dress.
Yeah.
So the fact that she stunts in rocking just like the greenest of green, like the king knows what's happening, like
Oh,
it's
they
an
all
insult
know.
to him.
Yeah, they all
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Everyone stops on a dime when she walks in.
yeah,
And I do like that, but it's cool too that like during Viserys' speech, he keeps like glancing down, like where the fuck, where is the queen? Like
yeah, right, that's right.
she's absent from a very important moment, and so I really liked that playing that up throughout the early part of this scene, and then her rolling in the way that she does, it just played it so well.
It's either her or freaking like when Rhaenyra's missing, she has like,
Yeah.
Alicent's there, and, like, where the hell's Rhaenyra?
Right.
But then now it's like, Rhaenyra's here, it's her wedding, she
Yep.
can't not be here. Now
Where the
where the
hell is
hell is
Alice?
Alicent? Like,
Yeah.
what is going on?
Yep.
I'm surrounded by 18-year-old girls,
Yeah.
um, getting ready.
Right.
Oh, who made the funny comment? Did someone made this comment
Yeah.
where it's like, the reason, like, they don't go to war is they would
Yeah,
miss, like,
women
all the battles.
yeah, women would never be ready for the battle, yeah.
Ridiculous. It's funny. Just so many bits in there. But
Yep.
yeah, so she absolutely just like stunts in. We get a nice like walk by of the high tower table, and they're all wearing
They're
green,
all
right?
wearing green, yep.
All lines up there. And was
Otto
it
missing too, which I thought was odd.
I was missing.
I know that he was, like, banished, but you'd think he would return for a major royal wedding, but maybe not.
So I was thinking about that. I was like, either I think he's definitely giving everything space. He never pushes too hard, even though he's very persistent with his pushes. He's never one to like he never like fought Damon, right? Like he never like doubles down. Like he knows when to like to back off and go
Yeah,
like chill out. And I
right.
think that's what he's doing. Plus to the comment that is later made by the one high tower to Allison, like he's like, we all thought like you would have kind of like faltered with your father being gone, but you kind of stepped into it.
Yeah,
So I think it's him really driving home like I'm gone. Figure it out.
right. Yeah, definitely, and she is, and I love that about it. I love it because you're right, she has been the quiet little queen up until this point, and this is
Let
when
me
it all
bathe
pops
you, you
off.
rotting
Yeah,
man. Like, and then call me back later, like in the middle of the
right.
night.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yep.
I think she's just done
Yeah,
with the
absolutely.
nonsense. Um. So yeah, no one. He's the king isn't happy, but he stumbles and he's like kind of like we do. It's like, where are we at? What are we talking about? And then the hand kind of lets him know. He's like, "Blah, we're at that part." Um, so he finishes his. Oh no, sorry. Before that, where am I? This was
Yeah.
important. This is important to note. When Allison comes up to the table and before she sits down, she just asserts her status here, where she's like, "Congratulations, stepdaughter."
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
This is the first time, like, she's addressed Rhaenyra as stepdaughter, which at first I was like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. That's so weird." Like,
Yep.
technically, that's her
It
stepdaughter,
is
and
her
she's, like,
stepdaughter.
getting place. And it's really that, like, whole, like, stepmother, father, like, trope where it's kinda
Yes.
like, "Listen here, little shithead,
Yeah.
um, put you in your place."
Yeah,
And, like, Rhaenyra's
absolutely.
just like, she doesn't know
Yeah.
what to do. Like, she's like,
Yeah.
"Crap, it's my wedding, but, like, you're stunting all over it. Same time, you are the queen, I guess."
I mean, it
Man,
was the perfect cap to her walk into the throne room, that comment.
she's just
So,
no longer pleased.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, he resumes his speech, and this is where he goes on about second age of dragons, two greatest houses, and he once again reiterates my heir, Rhaenyra. So like he really just kind of gave his speech, recapped everything that he hopes will all come to fruition.
Yeah, we know how that happens in every other
Poor
plan that
guy,
he comes up with.
poor guy, and he just says it so well, and he's just like, I said it so well, it'll just
Yeah,
work,
it'll just
right?
happen. It'll happen.
Please, please. No, definitely not. We all know better.
Yep.
Um, in this, I like how this all kind of like breaks down from this like moment where it's like everyone's on good behavior. We all came to here have a good time, but then it gets loose. Everything really starts to like all the threads start to just like get tangled because people start getting down to go dance, right? And we get the first dance with the bride and the groom. That's proper as it should be, but then everyone else gets to dance, and we all know what happens at at weddings and everyone's on the dance floor.
Right.
There's always the family members that you got to watch because they might not behave themselves, and you're just kind of
Absolutely.
like seeing what's going to happen.
And I
um
love Damon through all of this as he's just sitting patiently in the seat. He does have a good interaction with his wife's cousin, I think it is, the guy that we
yep.
were talking about earlier. which
Yeah.
I love that interaction between them 2.
And it's like and he's doing that thing where at weddings where it's like, "I'm not gonna get up and dance yet. I'm gonna sit and wait and, like,
Yep,
just kinda let this food
just chilling.
settle and
Yeah.
just chilling,
Yeah,
observing,
right,
see what my opportune moment to enter the fray will
right.
be." Um, Allison gets down, she greets her Hightower family. They reiterate that, they are with her, which just sounds kinda treasonous when you kinda, like, break that down.
Yeah, I mean, it is
Like,
treasonous for
what are you
sure.
suggesting? Like, duh, you're with, like, the crown, right?
Yeah,
No, you're with her?
right.
Okay, I see you, high
The
towers. You guys
things
are
that are said in whispers at weddings, right?
right. Um, Sir Gerald gets his moment and accuses Damon of murder because he says even in the Erie, people must confess to their crimes even if they're Targaryen. Damon retorts. Here, in the Red Keep or whatever in King's Landing, like people have to answer for their allegations or
Yeah,
their claims.
yep.
Um, and I like how the hand is like sitting there just like
L
listening, and then
Soaking it in. Yep.
and the king is also sitting there like I think the king like half hears the conversation. He's like, you
Yeah,
killed
like
your wife, you
yeah, he knows, and
dirtbag.
I think even when it's said earlier on in the episode, it looks like he, like, at least thinks Damon is responsible for the murder because it's mentioned
Oh
to him
yeah.
earlier. So, yeah, I love this. I also love that he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna, like, come and get my inheritance too,"
I'm
like
glad you're here.
yeah,
Who are you again? Oh, wait. I'm glad you're here. My
right.
inheritance.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna fly up there and talk to whoever, and I hope maybe I'll see you
Maybe I'll
there.
see you there. Loved it, man.
I also want.
Again,
I did wonder though, how did he get into the Erie? He must not have flown because it's not
I
like
mean, the
someone
Erie's
would have.
big, I would
It is
imagine.
big, but he had to have somewhat. I don't know. Like you fly a dragon, someone would have spotted the. He doesn't care either.
No, yeah, there's no
So
way he cares. So he probably rolled up
I just
far
want.
away on the dragon and
Yeah.
walked in.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, to what lengths he goes to kinda, like, rock his, like, whole concealed, like,
Yeah,
kinda, like, Dark Ranger look going there.
right.
He's like a rogue. He's a rogue and, like, a dragon rider. He's like a dual
Absolutely.
class.
Yeah. I love it.
He says a creepy assassin too. He's just, like, creeping up on her and then spooks the horse.
Yeah.
That was just so good. Um, he's so creepy. But yeah, he flips it for his inheritance, and at that point, Sir Gerald actually like really backs down from the whole situation because like I guess he just realized how valid of a claim that was. Like, oh yeah, shit, you're her husband, you get everything.
Yeah.
Damn, in a bind.
Shut him up real quick.
Yeah. And then we start to get like that was just like the formalities. Now we get like the really juicy stuff because Laenor's lover, spots Rhaenyra's lover. He kind of puts it through context clues. The term he uses to describe Sir Christian Cole, I will not repeat, but it is a fantastic term. Um,
Yep.
it's just funny. Like it reminds me of how the Hound would use words.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Um,
so good. Yep.
so he puts it through context and like figures it out, because they obviously have talked like she sounds like she has another lover if this is like the first thing she talks to Laenor about.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he informs Laenor, and Laenor through a couple things here, he he goes over and talks to Cole about the situation from their perspective as like the sworn protectors. While that's happening, Damon gets up and he kind of hits the floor, to stir the pot because that's what he does. And at this point, like tension is rising
Oh, yeah.
because
Big
we
time.
have the active participants on the floor, we have the observers as like I like this bit where Viserys is like kind of like frantically or just like nervously just like eating,
Yeah.
just like ripping
Yeah,
chicken apart.
right.
um he's like pissed, and then like Allison's sitting next to him like, are you okay? And
Yeah,
she's
like,
also like,
gross,
I
bro.
know this is getting like weird.
What is he eating in that scene? What the
Like
hell
chicken. I think it's
is it
like a
chicken?
chicken.
I thought it
It
was
looked like
some
he
sort
took
of
like a
seafood.
drumstick.
I thought it was
Oh,
some sort of seafood, like a f
oh, maybe he like cracked open like a lobster or some sort of
yeah, I don't know, like
crustacean.
yeah, it looked like it looked like a giant snail. I don't know, I have to go back and rewatch the scene. It looked like some sort of seafood. Like, it
Yeah,
did
he's like,
not
"Oh,
look
that's
like any
so
chicken.
gross. I'm gonna have to rewatch it."
Yeah.
Uh, um, yeah, and like there's like these moments that are like frantically stacking together, and there's like a
Yeah.
lot of things happening. And Damon like has a moment with his cousin being Corus's daughter, and they're kind of like into each other.
Yeah, they're vibing for sure. I think
Yeah,
that's definitely going somewhere, for
yeah,
sure.
there's that. Because basically, she's like dragon rider, knight, blah blah blah, and he's just like, hey, if you get to know me, you wouldn't think all that, and she's
Yeah,
like, we'll have to change that.
I would imagine after the time jump, they're gonna be together, and
Something,
they might have gotten together during that 10-year span.
yeah.
Why else put that scene in there, you know what I mean? Because there's so much else going on
Hmm.
in the scene itself, so it's gotta have an importance to it.
Yeah. So Damon be on the floor is just nerve wracking for the king, and then Laenor and his lover are dancing with each other. And that's just nerve wracking for Corlys and his wife because they're like,
Yeah,
not a good
a little
look,
too
bro.
much, little too much.
Cool it. So there's all that weaving together. Damon makes his way to Rhaenyra, and they have a very like lusty taunt high Valyrian conversation in the midst of it all.
Yeah,
And she basically is like, do it. Like,
yeah.
kill the Kingsguard, kidnap me, marry me, take me back to your castle. Like, do
Yeah,
it.
it felt very it was a nice callback to her interaction with him at Dragonstone when she went to get the egg, where she's like, "Just kill me, be done with it."
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed Viserys, like, catching snippets of it through the crowd as they're, like, almost
Yes.
somewhat kissing.
The one, and it was odd because I kept pausing it to like read the subtitles for certain things. I paused it, and when they give him his gaze, there's like a person standing there, and you see like if the person wasn't there, you would see they weren't kissing, but the way they frame it, they
It
they
looks
they
like they
would be
were.
kissing.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
it's very
it's
well
great.
shot that way.
I agree, that's where I was going. Yeah,
And he's
I
just
love
like
that.
he's like,
Yeah.
"Is that? Is he? Are
This
they?"
motherfucker, I
"Ugh."
let this fucker into the wedding, gave him a seat, and now he's making out with the bride on the dance floor.
She's not married yet though, and she says it.
True,
She's
true.
like, "I'm not married yet. Like,
Yeah,
do it, Damon. Like, make it happen.
yep.
Make this party pop off. Let's go." Like,
You
she
gotta
ain't
imagine
scared.
at some point, he's gonna take her up on one of these threats that she throws back at him, right? Or
She
one of
wants him
these.
to.
Yeah, she does, yeah.
Um, but yeah, so like, there's that inappropriateness happening. Maybe might be happening from the TED table. Like that's what he's looking at. But Corliss is like, "What is my son doing?" Like, like none of this is good. And like, so like, there's tension up there. The dance floor is a mess.
Yep.
Um, and violence breaks out. It was weird because it sounded like animals at first. Like I
Yeah,
heard a
yeah,
weird squeal. I was
yeah.
very confused at first. I thought someone like from outside of the room
Came in, yeah.
was fighting.
I like the way they did this a lot because they almost make it seem like Damon was scuffling, right?
Yeah, no one knew.
Yeah, no one knows, and I really like the tension as they're all like Alicent and Viserys, they're all standing there trying to figure out, like, what's going on,
And if
and
and if and if you look at it position wise, like Christian was standing at one of the back pillars on the back of the dance floor. Damon and Rhaenyra had made their way all the way far as they could from the main table, so it's very much removed from the high table,
right,
head table there,
yeah, yeah, definitely, and then I loved the reveal of who it was as Kristen just absolutely snaps.
dude.
And he's just taking the breakup very rough, man. He's taking the breakup very, very rough.
Yeah, he's taking it rough, and Laenor's lover. Poor guy doesn't have a name. He didn't live very long to have one.
Yeah, Joffrey something.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was he. had a Joffrey in there. He when he was talking with Cole, he doesn't like say he knows, but he highly alludes to he knows. He's like, "Hey, we who have their secrets need to keep them safe for everybody's
Right.
perspective." So it was like this weird, like, let's be friends, but I'm also threatening you. And Christian, not really knowing how to process these very complicated social weaves,
Right.
I just kind of like snapped under pressure and just like beat the dude's face in, like
Yeah.
severely beat his face in to
Yeah, I mean,
death.
he killed him.
Poor guy.
That's how I took it, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
he's
he
dead,
killed him.
yeah.
He's dead.
Yeah.
Like his skull blood was on the floor when they
Yeah.
married them in the shotgun wedding style.
Right.
Um, So yeah, and I did like the little detail of the hand sending his brute son to like he gave him the look. It was like go grab like Rhaenyra, and like
Yeah.
he's just like in there grabs her, and she's like
Shoulders
put me
her, yeah.
down, and just like carries her out of there. I
Yeah.
like that guy.
I
I
do
don't know
too.
what his role is, but I like him.
Yeah,
He has
definitely. You
some sort
gotta
of purpose that's growing
yeah,
here.
absolutely, I agree. And we get a lot more of the Strongs in this episode, so I think they're probably gonna be much more important moving forward. And I'm excited to see because I like the family dynamic they got going on. Like I
Yeah,
said earlier, you got the smart one who's the gimp, little finger, can't fight with his hands, can't fight, with his any swords or anything, so he's gonna use his mind. And then you have the brute as well, who's the other brother.
Dad
And
just
then
looked
the
at him, and he just was like, "Got it,
yeah.
Dad."
Yeah, just he's just
Grabbing
the
the
mindless
princess.
brute, right? Yeah, just the mindless brute. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how they play into the coming conflict that we are patiently waiting for.
Yeah. And in the stress, the king's nose starts to bleed pretty badly. Um, and quite quickly, the hull is cleared. And there's a nice sequence here, which I have a question about the one bit, the way they layered this. So, like, we get the shotgun wedding scene of just the intimate, like, need to be there people of them getting
Yep.
married right there in the main room. Cause guess we're not having a 7 day party,
Yeah, yeah,
guys. Like,
Viserys
that
just
really,
over it. Fucking over his plans, man. He's
really
just
killed
like,
the vibe.
yeah, done.
If we can't make it through like a dinner evening, we're not
Right.
making it 7 days at a tournament.
No way. No way.
Everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die.
Yep.
Um, so they're doing this, but then they're cutting to like Cole going to the Godswift to like Harikari himself, like Japanese suicide style, just
Yeah.
like out himself, which I thought was really cool. That like he was going to Kingsguard, like maybe that's their job is to like Japanese style like commit suicide with
Yeah, it
their like
might be.
short blade.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool touch. There's nothing that I know from medieval Europe that would say that they did that, but I do like
Yeah,
Major Weeb over here. So
yeah,
so
they
I
did that,
really
and I
dig
was like,
that
ooh,
touch. Yeah,
I was like,
big fan.
the
Big
weave's
fan.
wearing off, rubbing off on me, and I was like, ooh, this is cool. Like he's doing the Japanese samurai thing.
Yeah. And
Um,
I really liked it because it was showing again that Cole's just really not handling the breakup. Like the girl he loves is over here getting married and he's literally about to kill himself over here.
he desecrated his vows. He just actually
Yeah.
did it again by just cold bloodily murdering someone,
Yeah. Yeah.
beating them to death.
Right. If he
Um,
wasn't gonna get hung for sleeping with Rhaenyra, he's probably gonna get beheaded at this point for killing somebody at the royal wedding.
yeah, and Alicent is at the like marriage ceremony. They're weaving back and forth to the Godswood, but she's also shows up in the Godswood. So I thought that was weird because the way they like layered that, it
Yeah,
should have maybe been two different sequences, but it was one sequence.
yeah, well, I just took it as
Yeah,
it was like she was leaving the quick shotgun wedding thing and stumbled across him in the Godswood as she went to contemplate her next move because she goes there frequently, right? So,
but I'm just saying, like in the middle of the wedding sequence, they have the Christian and her sequence. So she's like literally in two places at once. It goes the start of the wedding, Christian Cole going to kill himself, her saying stop, and then back to the wedding where the king collapses. She's standing right there and with the king.
oh, I didn't realize that. I thought the king collapsed and then that scene was after.
Nah, it's before.
Oh, okay.
It's
Interesting.
weird.
Yeah, that's
They're
odd.
not simultaneously happening. which I thought at first was, but then at
They
the end, I'm
were.
like, no, she's standing right there on the
Well, I
king
mean, I
collapse.
think I guess maybe at the same time it's still doing the same thing. It's
Yeah,
getting the point across of why he's doing what he's doing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Showing the parallels between his love getting married to somebody else and what he was doing because of that.
and all the
But yeah,
horrible
it
things
could have.
he's done.
Yeah, they could have probably edited it a little bit better. Yeah.
But but that aside, I really did like the fact that she just shows up and she's like, "Stop!" Like to me, she was finding that ally
Yes.
that
Yep.
she needs. That
Absolutely.
very, Varys, whatever his name is. I'm just gonna say Varys. Littlefinger Jr.
Yeah.
He was like, do you have any like allies? She's like, I'm the queen. I'm not any short of friends and like allies and stuff. But like in the back of her mind, she kind of
She
knows she
really
is.
is. Yeah.
So in her mind, she has seen someone who's like incredibly loyal. She's probably privy to the like why he killed him.
Yeah.
And she's just like,
He's very loyal. He doesn't like
lie.
lying, obviously, because he spilled that shit real quick. So yeah, it's a very good I like this a lot. Now I thought it would have been really cool for him to still be Team Rhaenyra during all of this, but protecting the queen. But I also really like that now he's like the pissed off ex-boyfriend, you know?
But and he kind of needs to be though, because Rhaenyra, and we were talking about that before, like what's his role like long term in Rhaenyra?
Yeah.
Like she has other love interests that need to play out that are more
Right.
important. So she can't just be like triple booking her love interests.
Yeah, definitely.
Um so yeah, and then the king collapses. As we talked about earlier. So whether or not he's dead, he's probably not dead, but he's definitely going to be in a very frayed state here forward.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely would bet my money that he makes it through this
five
10-year time
bucks.
jump, which seems odd because he feels like he's very close to death through this whole episode. He's very close. It's maybe a little impractical to think that he's going to make it another 10 years, but who knows? Maybe they cut his arm off and he gets a little bit better and then stuff
Yeah, but it's his
spirals out.
back and like
Yeah, it's
I
all
don't
over. Yeah. And I would
see.
like to know
Maybe
if they clarified what the hell's going on with him, like, because it
no,
the arm almost somewhat looks like grayscale, but I know it's not grayscale because of what we've seen before, so I
it's
just
just
wanna
some sort of
know.
flesh eating like
Yeah,
disease.
yeah.
Because
So
grayscale, you don't have to amputate your fingers because they're rotting off.
right,
You
right,
just get to keep your grayscaled arm until it creeps into your brain.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, maybe we get one more episode with these characters. And I would like to say, because Otto says it might be months, it might be years. I don't think it's 10 years. 10 years is a long time for this
It
poor bastard to drag on.
seems like
So
it, yeah.
maybe we get like a 3-year jump and get one more episode, maybe half an episode with these younger actors, and maybe we time jump mid
But
next
even
episode.
yeah, but, like, even then,
He's gonna die. He's
yeah,
not
he's
making
definitely
it
gotta
here.
die, but he's gotta die after the time jump, otherwise, it's not gonna make sense that all this stuff pops off so much years later.
Or maybe we just see it well into the popped off portion and we get like
Yeah, maybe, yeah,
I
I
just don't
could
see
get
how
to
they're gonna time jump like 10 years and like he still justify that he's alive. If
right.
not, he's just
Yeah,
like a
he's gonna
husk
look
of
like
like
Gollum.
yeah, he's basically like less than Bran. Like he's just they're just
Right,
wheeling him around at this point.
yeah.
So like that's the hard part. I just don't see him making it. Especially in this episode, they made it such a point that he's like dying.
Yes, yes, every
He's
scene that he's
collapsed
in.
twice.
Yep,
He's bleeding out the nose for no reason. Like
yep, they
he's shutting down.
showed his arm as he was getting taken care of by the maggots or whatever, leeches.
So
So,
what's the bet? What's the bet? 10 years or not?
yeah, for me personally, I'm betting that he makes it the 10-year, but not much further past it. Like, this next episode, if this is our time jump episode, he dies this episode.
I my bet is less than 5 years. They're not gonna.
Okay,
He's not gonna make it a 10-year time jump. There's no way.
okay.
All right.
We'll see. And I think I'm comfortably we changed our characters down here in the corner to match our allegiances, correct?
I was gonna ask you. I was like, is that fitting? Is that fair?
Yeah, right now I'm currently comfortably in Otto's
Hightower,
realm. Yeah, I'm team Hightower.
Team
Now,
Hightower.
I will say that really outside of Otto, I don't like Alicent currently.
Hmm.
I don't see where she's going, so we'll see how it plays out. I am a big fan of Daemon, so this might flip for me at some point in the near future, especially if Otto kicks the bucket. If he's out, team Targaryen all the way.
Team Damon.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm probably gonna be just pure blood Team
Yeah.
Targaryen.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
are. Yeah. You like those incest couples, you know?
yeah,
Jamie, you were team Cersei in the original series.
Yeah, basically, Lannisters or Targaryens, like one or the
You're
other.
in. Yep.
Yep. Lannisters, they don't have as much gold in this series. They're kind of still pining for like top
Yeah, they're
spots.
climbing.
So
They're climbing.
they're the Targaryens are the new.
Yeah, they got your red keep. They got
Got the
their fancy
red.
dragons. They got
Yep.
all the gold. Yeah. You're
Yeah.
just good. You go where the money is.
Yep. I go where the
Yeah.
money is. Yeah. Well, but then I would be a Corlys on this one.
That's true. That's true.
Valerians. Yeah, it would be Valerians then if
But
where the money is.
I'm pretty confident to say that they're gonna side with so you're already on that side anyway. They're gonna side with
Yeah.
the Rhaenyra for sure, right? After this episode.
But
Because they're
Damon's my favorite character though. He's just so fun.
Damon's great, man. I mean, he's probably my favorite character at the end of the day too, just because we haven't gotten that much of Otto, really. And Otto
I'm
did make like a horrifyingly terrible mistake last
yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
So he probably got knocked a rung down and Damon just keeps climbing as far as character.
Yeah, there's just something about that scene where he kills his wife. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way he like holds the gravity in that scene, like he doesn't say anything to her. She's
Nope.
like talking like to him, and he's
Walking
just
slow.
creeping like with his like arm kind of like reaching for the horse, and like he like knows it, and like she's like trying to read him, and then she's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Great
He's totally
editing.
gonna.
Great cut at that scene too. It's very reminiscent of later seasons of Game of Thrones, the way they did their cuts because they cut to him walking with the rock and then they cut to the fish's head getting chopped off,
Yeah.
which is a really nice touch. I love that. So definitely cool. Definitely cool.
Yeah, he's just earning Emmys with no words spoken.
Oh, he is. He is.
Did he say
Absolutely.
something in this scene?
No, I don't think so.
Did he have any dialogue in
I
that
don't think
scene?
he had any dialogue. I have to go back and watch it, but I'm pretty sure he didn't.
He might have said like 2 words at best. It has
Maybe,
to be
yeah.
he has to be
I
good
don't.
acting because he just like just
Oh, he's yeah, yeah, dude, he's nailing it. Absolutely
he
nailing
like
it.
is Damon.
Yeah.
10 seasons.
Yes, please.
Damon ain't dying.
Yep. Oh, I don't think so. Yeah, not until way later. Unfortunately for me personally, and I'm not gonna spoil this for anybody else. I know what happens to Rhaenyra. It's literally in the original series. They talk about it. So
Oh,
big bummer for me on that. But I mean, I would imagine a lot of people know that because it's literally
yeah.
it they say exactly what happens in the original series. So
I have
Joffrey
my
spills the beans there.
selective memory. I kinda wanna go look and see what that is, but
Yeah.
selective memory, I'll just block that out for now, I
Yeah, I
guess.
wouldn't. I wouldn't do it.
Oh, okay.
I
Well, it
just thought
sounds
it
like
was
she
funny.
dies. No,
I just thought it
everyone
was
dies.
funny that it's literally in the he literally says what happens to her at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
That's a wrap.
this episode was pretty like same length, but it felt kind of like shorter, sweeter. Like it was just really honed in.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly dialogue, just very some of it on the nose, right? Like we didn't play around. We got through
Yeah.
some things like Christian just kind of spilling the beans, like just worked through that really quickly. So they're doing the best they can with going through this much history in 5 episodes so far.
Yeah.
Crushed like 10 years,
Cranking it out. Yeah, they're
cranking
cranking
it
out
out.
those time jumps. Do you think this will be our last time jump?
No.
No?
Wait, you mean like what happens to the next one if
Or
there is
I
a
mean,
time jump?
if we're assuming that the 10-year time jump is this episode, is this the last time
Um,
jump that we get? You have to imagine that it
I
has to be, right?
if there is, yeah, well,
Because the total war only lasts 3 years. So, we can't be jumping too much or we're not gonna have a very long series.
but we have to jump enough for Aegon to get more able.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
we don't see Aegon at all the past 2 episodes, right? We see the baby, but do we see
Aegon's
Aegon?
what, 4?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I don't know. The time jumping stuff, dude, is so hard to keep track of the people's ages, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, he's maybe like 4. He would be really young teen, but
Yeah,
Rhaenyra was riding a dragon at 14.
right.
So
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 he's gonna be riding a dragon by the time we do this time jump, guaranteed.
yeah, so they could probably pull. Okay, so yeah, maybe yeah, one big time jump they'll do. We might get a few more. If they do 2 more time jumps, it would be like I want to say like the king makes it like another 2, 3 years, and that'll be like a time jump. We've witnessed his death and the unfolding of these current actors. Then we get the big time jump like, hey, well, no. That goes back to the fact that
Yeah, you
it would
gotta
jump, pop off. It's
it's gotta
weird.
pop off, yeah. I'm
We
telling
gotta
you, there's
handle it
no
right.
other option. There's no other option. He has to make it this 10-year time jump.
Yeah. He's so
Has
dead.
to.
He's so
Oh,
dead.
he's dead. It for sure, money's on he's dying this episode, but he's making it. He's making it
Yeah.
to this episode at least.
Yeah. We shall see. I trust them. Even though Sir Christian Cole spilled the beans way too easy.
Yeah.
I was like, dang it.
Yep.
Dang it. Because I was happy because Rhaenyra didn't, right? When Allison
Right.
questioned her and I
Right.
was like, boom, they didn't do it. Like, just lie your way through that girl.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Leave it to
He's gonna
Kristen,
do
man.
it. He's gonna do it.
Yeah,
And like she says, like,
he doesn't have those Game of Thrones,
no.
punches, you know? The muscles. Game of
He's
Thrones
just
muscles
like
can't do it.
he's like, I can't do it. My
Yeah.
cloak, it's white.
Too honorable. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that wraps it for tonight. See you all next Monday as we recap episode 6. This is a 10 episode series, so we are at the halfway mark.
We are.
Tune in then. And until next time, let's just bump out to this banging music intro. Peace.